Okay, sorry guys that I couldn't be in class today. One of my sons is sick and we had to get him tested for COVID, and I don't know anything yet. I don't know if I'll be back on Monday or not, but for those of you who didn't get to go through writing your introduction with me in class today, and also for those of you that did get to go through it yesterday, but you feel like you still might need to look over it again, I decided to make this little video to lead you through the writing your introduction. So let's get started. Now remember, you're supposed to be writing about an essay about the Odyssey that explains how the physical journey is an important element, and you're discussing how the journey adds to the meaning of the work as a whole. And your introduction has to be a good start for that. Now, one of the reasons that I like no red ink so much is that it breaks down each part of your paper into its own separate section. And when you click on that section here, you can see that it changes over here and gives you lots and lots of information, very good information on how to do all of these things. So for those of you that didn't get to go through this with me in class, click up here on your rubric. And today we are working on creating a thesis statement that introduces a strong interpretation of the text. And you're going to write an introduction based off of that thesis statement. So they actually give you some examples here. So it explains more closely here what a strong interpretation of the text means. It's your own idea about the text, not just a fact or summary. If your thesis is a fact, you won't need an essay to write and develop it. So what you're supposed to be addressing specifically is how the physical journey is an important element and how it adds to the meaning of the work as a whole. So you have to decide, basically, do you think that the journey in the Odyssey changes Odysseus in any way, or do you think he's still basically the same person? Now, I will tell you, if you think he's still basically the same person, you're wrong. But if you want to take that tack, you can still do so as long as you can back your point up, your argument up with evidence from the text. It's much, much easier to show how he has changed, though. So that's the way that I recommend that you take your thesis, and that's the way I'm taking my thesis that I'm doing for my sample paper. So I'll go back here and go back over to the tips and examples. So we're trying to write a thesis statement. Now, a couple of things here. It's got a tutorial specifically on how to do introductions, so you can go through that. I am not going to go through that right now. You can go through it on your own. It's pretty self-explanatory. But it does have these really good examples. And one thing I want you to notice, it's got two different essays here. The entire essay, by the way, not just the introduction. And it shows you the introductions for each of these essays, and they are color coded so that you can see the hook is in orange, the bridge is in like a light blue, and the thesis is in a light purple. When I show you my example introductions here in a moment, you will see the same color scheme. So just remember hook, bridge, thesis. So we are trying to write our thesis right now. If you go down here, scroll down to where it says tips and tricks, it talks about hooks. We'll come back to that in a minute. And then it's got a little recommendation that you don't have to start off with your introduction, and you don't. You know, if you decide that you don't want to write your introduction first, that's okay. You can go back to it later, but you still need to go through this eventually. Okay. And then finally, we get to where it says in your introduction, orient your readers by naming the title and author of any text you're writing about. So we have to make sure that we do that. And then one more. Your bridge should help readers understand your thesis by providing context about your text's genre, plot, characters, and structure. However, be careful not to include too much background. We'll look at that when we get to the bridge. All right, so if you're having trouble coming up with your thesis, it gives you several suggestions here. What strategies does the author use to communicate themes or ideas? What characters or events drew your attention? What unique or surprising aspect of the text's structure stood out to you? Okay, so I'm going to click on my introduction here, and I'm just going to make my thesis really simple to start off with. Okay, so super simple here. I'm just going to say Remember I told you my paper is about Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit. So I'm just going to say that over the course of his journey, Bilbo Baggins changes from someone who desires comfort and security into someone who craves attention. You can use this exact format for your own thesis statement. This works for you because Odysseus is going on his own journey. You, of course, would have to change Bilbo Baggins to Odysseus. And then Odysseus changes from, you would have to decide what he was like originally and what he changes into. How do you know these things? Well, you go back and look at your two quick writes I had you do and what your thoughts were in those quick writes. That's one of the reasons why I had you do them. So take a moment. You can pause this video, try to figure out what you're going to put for your thesis statement first. Okay. All right. So now you should be through with your thesis statement. If you're not, again, pause the video and come back to it. But I'm going to now go look at hooks because we're going to do the hook next. So the hook is the attention grabbing statement that you want to open your essay up with. Now, the reason we did the thesis first, even though it's not the first sentence in your essay, is that it is the most important sentence in your essay. It's the essay that lays out the rest of your argument. So you have to know what your thesis is before you can write anything else. Even if you don't know what the rest of your introduction is, you still have to know what your thesis is. So, stuck on your hook, try grabbing your reader's attention with an intriguing claim, a memorable piece of dialogue, or a vivid image from the text. So, they give you some examples here. So, click on the examples. So, here's the thesis that they give you. You can read over it. Yours will look exactly the same. Here's a hook that is an intriguing claim. Here's a hook that is memorable dialogue from the text. Look over it at your leisure. And here's a hook that is a vivid image from the text. Okay, so I'm going to come up with one of each of these. Now, you don't have to come up with one of each of these for your introduction, but I do recommend that you try it because you never know, you may like one better than the other. So I've already come up with mine. I'm going to type them out here. My first one is for an intriguing claim, all that is required to be a hero is a willingness to be brave when you are really afraid. That's an intriguing claim. It's not necessarily what everybody's definition of being a hero is, but it is a definition of hero, and it's my opinion about things, and that's okay. Now let's try memorable dialogue from the text. I'm doing this by memory because I don't have the book in front of me, but Bilbo at the beginning of The Hobbit says something along the lines of, adventures are nasty, un, uncomfortable things, make you late for dinner. I can't imagine what anyone sees in them. And that's actually a quote from the text, roughly. I'd have to go back and double check the quote to make sure that I was getting it right. And then one more hook is the vivid image from the text. So I like the idea because remember, I'm trying to emphasize how Bilbo changes over the course of the journey. So I'm going to start out with an image of what he's like at the beginning of the journey. So I like the idea of telling the reader to picture small, childlike being hunched over on a pony as rain pours down upon him. And I like that one because it emphasizes how miserable Bilbo is at the beginning of the adventure. Now, the next thing after, once you've done either one or two or three hooks, you need to pick one of them. Okay, make your choice about which one you like the best, and then delete the others. Okay, don't be afraid to write something and then delete it. So I like the image the best. That's the one that I decided to stick with. And so I am going to delete all these others, and that's going to be my hook for my essay. Now, for my introduction. Now, the last thing you got to do is you have to come up with your bridge. The bridge is exactly what it sounds like. It's a transition. It's a connection from your hook to your thesis, and that's all that it is. And usually this is where you name the character, if you haven't already, and where you name the book and the author. Okay, so you will have to mention, if you haven't already mentioned Odysseus' name in the first sentence, then you'll have to mention his name here. And if you haven't already said the Odyssey by Homer or some variation of that, you'll have to write the Odyssey by Homer, and make sure that you write the Odyssey like this, where it's both words are capitalized and it's italicized. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and point out to you where you can find information to help you with your bridge. So here is where it tells you to make sure, this is the third blue dot down here. Here's where it tells you to make sure that you name the author and the book. And notice that the author's capitalized and the book is capitalized and italicized. And also notice that any other time you refer to the author, you just refer to him by last name, not first. Okay. But Homer only has one name, so you'll just call him Homer anytime you want to refer to him. And then the next one, the fourth blue dot down here, is where it talks to you. It talks about your bridge, okay, and gives you some examples of too much information in a bridge. Notice how this bridge is really super long. It's the white and purple part, and you want to get rid of the purple part. And then here's perfect. It's just got this short part. So rather than do any more of that with you, I have created a Google Doc that has 3 different sample introductions on it, and I have attached it to this assignment to help you over the weekend so that you can get your introduction done before you come into class on Monday, when I hopefully will be back and we can go ahead and get started on our bodies. So here is the Google Doc with 3 sample introductions. Notice that I have highlighted the hook, the bridge, and the thesis with the same colors that they are on no red ink. And it's an example with each type of hook. So here is an intro with an intriguing claim. All that is required to be a hero is a willingness to be brave enough to do what is needed, even when one is afraid. That's my hook. Here's my bridge. Bilbo Baggins, the protagonist in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, is certainly no hero when he first joins Gandalf the Wizard and 13 dwarves on a journey to the Lonely Mountain. That's my bridge. Notice how I mentioned my character's name because I haven't already, and I mentioned the name of the author and the book formatted properly. As the journey continues, however, Bilbo slowly transforms from a being who desires nothing but comfort and security to one who will risk his own safety to save others. So I changed my hook a little bit and I changed my thesis a little bit, but that's because I'm trying to make it better as I go on. Here is another example. This hook is a memorable piece of dialogue from the text. Adventures are nasty and disturbing, uncomfortable things. Make you late for dinner. I can't think what anybody sees in them. So says Bilbo Baggins when he is first approached by Gandalf the Wizard to join him and 13 dwarves on a journey to the Lonely Mountain, which he reluctantly does despite his misgivings. As the journey continues, however, Bilbo slowly transforms from a being who desires nothing but comfort and security to one who will risk his own safety for others. So the hook is different. The bridge is a little bit different. The thesis is exactly the same, although yours may not be. And finally, a hook with a vivid image. Whoops. Oh, it goes on to the next page, sorry. Picture a small being the size of a child, his back hunched as he rides a pony mile after mile, a rain-soaked cloak covering his shivering form. So I amped up the imagery a bit in this hook here. The pitiful figure is that of Bilbo Baggins, the protagonist of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, and as he rides in the pouring rain, he is regretting his choice to journey to the Lonely Mountain with Gandalf the Wizard and 13 dwarves. As the journey continues, however, he slowly transforms from a being who desires nothing but comfort and security to one who will risk his own safety to save others. So these are all attached to the assignment now. Please use them to help you. You do not have to create 3 introductions. You create 1 introduction, okay? And go ahead and put it into your draft here, and then make sure you click save and exit whenever you finish writing that part of your paper, okay? So you'll be ready with your body paragraph. If you have any questions, make sure that you email me over the weekend and I will help you if I can. I'm not actually sick, so right now I feel good enough to be able to help anybody who needs some help. Just let me know.